Greetings. This is Len Gilbert, and I'm going to make a really quick tutorial video for some folks. I'd gotten a lot of concern from some of you who were worried about with the recent shakedowns in the furry subculture. Many of you are worried as an alt furry that you won't have many artists to choose from anymore. I want to make this, I'm making this video because I want to help all of you who are worried about that get around this dilemma. So that's what I'm going to do today. Here is the deal with me. I've never had, I've had a couple objections to people when I ask them to do my art, but most of the time I have absolutely no problem. Even today, even in this environment, I have absolutely no problem getting artists to commission my work. And I am, other than Foxler, I'm probably the most well-known pariah in the furry fandom, at least for political reasons, that is. So, and if I don't have much of a problem getting art, then you really shouldn't have much of a problem either. Now, I have a decent number of artists that I just kind of go to. If you don't have that, I want to be able to help you get around some of the hysteria that's going on. And here's how we're going to do it. First of all, I'm going to tell you how to basically how to get around some of the vetting that artists do these days. And we're going to do that by setting up really quickly, without too much investment. We're going to set up a sock puppet alt account on Fur Affinity. And second, I'd also like to go over how to do a business account on PayPal. A lot of you folks are worried about, well, what if these social justice warrior artists get my real name and my address? Will they dox me? Okay, we're going to get around that by setting up a PayPal business account. The other concern is artists are going to see my alt furry related account and they're not going to do business. No, we're going to get around that by making a believable but easily made sock puppet account on Fur Affinity, and that should cover most of the bases. Now, this video assumes that you have not been IP banned on Fur Affinity. So most of us haven't. I haven't. I still have an active account on Fur Affinity because I follow the rules on Fur Affinity, and I would hope that you will as well. But if you don't, if you have been banned, like a couple of us have, I would instead recommend getting a VPN so that you can get around the IP ban. If you post from behind a VPN. That was how a number of the spamming trolls did so in the past. Like, for example, Tori the Wolf, he used to always do that. He used to harass people. Now, I'm not saying you should harass people by making alternate accounts. I'm just saying get a VPN to get around this stupid ban. And then, go about your usual business being a nice person. So, I'm going to assume that you haven't been IP banned from Fur Affinity. If you have, look into getting a VPN. So, with that said, let's take a look at first of all setting up an alt account, a sock puppet account, which is pretty easy. I don't really think you need me to give you the mechanics of setting up a sock puppet account, so I'm going to spare you of the displeasure of listening to me talk about that. I'd like to just talk about a couple of things that you should do to make your account look, to make your account pass the smell test for some of these artists. If you don't have make an alt account that could be, ideally it would be another persona that other people don't know about. But if you can't do that, just a funny, clever screen name would work. If you don't have a reference for that character, I would recommend getting a reference for it. But if not, just something like a funny GIF in the profile avatar would work. You do need a decent avatar. If you have an empty avatar, that it kind of, it raises some flags, some red flags, and we don't want to get too much attention here. So get a good name, ideally an alternate persona. If you don't have an alternate persona, then just make a clever nickname idea and a funny GIF. The next thing you need to do is you need to follow somewhere between 50 and 100 people on Fur Affinity, and you can do that real easily. It's easy to do. I go to the front page, and some of this stuff is real nasty, but I don't even know if this is something that should be on YouTube, so I'm going to go back to my usual account. But that's the front page right there. Click some images that appeal to you and follow that artist. Look around in that artist's shout page or some of the stuff that the artist wants you to look at, or some like friends and stuff, and follow all of them. Follow those people, and within no time you'll probably start getting shout outs like thank you for the watch, thank you for the follow. That's the kind of thing that you want in your alt account. Another thing, it's important to make it look like this account has been around for a while. Some of these artists are going to take a look at this account just to make sure it's not an alt furry account. Make it look like it's been around. Make it look like it's established. Now, you can't really change the registered since thing. It's going to tell them how old it is, but most people don't really bother to look at that. Especially these artists. They're very right-brained, if I may say. So these artists are really right-brained. So what do most artists do when they're vetting you to see whether you're not alt furry? Basically, they just look at your front page and say, okay, shouts here. They look at this area of the body. No alt furry stuff, no Third Reich stuff. Look in your favorites. They'll look at the art. No Third Reich stuff, no Third Reich stuff, no alt furry anything. Make sure there isn't any, by the way. They'll look at the front page and they'll do a quick once over. And it's usually 90% of these people, that's all they do. So you want to make sure that your front page is loaded with stuff. You want to make sure that your front page is loaded with comments from other users. Thanks for the watch, blah, 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 blah. And to get that, you have to follow a lot of people, and you should make positive comments on pieces of art that you like. Just random words of encouragement. Nothing negative. Always stay positive. That way you can at least generate enough interaction for 90% of these artists to just look and say, oh, look, Len's got a number of people here. Len's got lots of people talking here, including Malkin. So they won't mind, right? That's all they really need. Wait until your shout outs, before you start looking for commissioners, wait until your shout outs are filled. Wait until your shout outs are filled with just random artists saying thank you for the watch, blah, blah, blah. And stuff like that. Wait till you have, I'd say, about 5 or 6. Wait till you have 5 or 6. And it doesn't take all that long. These artists like promoting themselves. So just make it look like there's some activity on there. Make it look like it's not some Joe Blow account. Because the artists want to be able to trust that you're going to come through on your payment and that you're going to be a good commissioner. And by the way, we are all good commissioners over here in Alt Furry. We don't have any bad commissioners. And if we do, I'm going to have a chat with you. Always be nice to the artist, but that's neither here nor there. I always want everyone in Alt Furry to be nice to artists and to tip generously and to be very detailed in their descriptions, and I assume that you will be. So, once all that is out of the way, you should be able to, a couple of obvious things. Don't make anything explicit. I think I mentioned this once. Don't make anything explicitly Third Reich related on your profile. Subtle works, but nothing too outrageous. Subtle stuff that seems to trigger people. So here's one example of something I've been able to get real easily. Like, see, this was done. This was historically accurate. Well, it actually isn't quite historically accurate, but this is a character that's the protagonist in my novel, for all those who aren't familiar. He is a Lancer in an elite Wehrmacht division. He doesn't have all you history aficionados will notice the absence of a eagle with a swastika. I didn't include that for the artist description because I didn't want to trigger the artist. So I did this as a reference for Hans, and the artist didn't mind. The artist was an American artist, English speaking, typical, usual run-of-the-mill furry artist from what I understand, and didn't have any problems. I told her, this is an elite division in the Wehrmacht, so make sure there is a Großdeutschland armband. They did it, make the uniform. They did the uniform. Again, the eagle and swastika was not there. I didn't ask them to make that. But I got a really nice piece of work from a really talented artist with no problems. And this is a character. This is a Third Reich character right from the Wehrmacht. So if I can do this, then you can as well. I mean, I did this with my, I did this with my original Third Reich related account, and I got it done without a problem. Now, if you're using an alt account, it'll be considerably easier for you. So, just wanted to share that one thing with you. It is very possible to get art from these artists. You just have to be tactful. You have to use alt accounts. You have to make your the front page of your alt account on Fur Affinity has to be believable. It has to be free of alt furry related or Third Reich related things, and it has to have a decent amount of user interaction on it. As long as it has that, 90% of these artists aren't even going to look twice. They're just going to say yes, and you're going to get that commission that you've wanted to make. Okay. Now, on to PayPal. PayPal is a big deal for a lot of you, and I understand that. Hold on a sec here. There we go. I'm going to switch to PayPal. Okay. So, if you don't want these social justice warrior artists knowing your real name, that is a major concern for us in Alt Furry, and I want to help. I have a PayPal business account. That's what I've done. I have set myself up a PayPal business account. So we're going to go over it real quick. If you set up a business account, they will not have your real name. They will just have the name of your business. The artist will not get your real name. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is these days. That's just the way it has to be. And I wish things were better. I wish we didn't have to do this, but as we all know, we do. So here's how to do it. I'll go through it step by step with you. We want to select, when you set up a new account, you want to set up a business account. You'll want to select payment standard, because if you ever decide to sell under it, you can take major debit and credit cards. I think this is probably the best way to go. The payment standard. Express check. If you want to do express checkout, I suppose that's okay too. So let's try that. I'm going to select that. And you'll enter your email address. Hold on, I'm going to enter my email address. Alright. Going to click continue. I enter a password and blah, 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 blah. Let's see. You will have to enter your first name and your last name. And then, let's see. Hold on. Legal business name. This is the, this is exactly what you want to put in. This is where you want to put in your business name, and make up whatever name you want. I use Nibelung Studio or Nibelung Works. Enter your phone number and stuff. PayPal doesn't give out phone numbers to sellers, and they won't give out street addresses so long as you don't include the street address in your transaction, as long as you don't require them to ship something. And 99 times out of 100, we're not going to need for the artist to ship us anything. So they won't get an address. They won't even see your first and last name. But what they'll see is the legal business name. Right? That's what they will see. So for example, when I do a piece of when I commission somebody under my personal account, it comes up as Len Gilbert sent you payment of XXY. Now, if I use my business account, it just says payment from Nibelung Studio. They're just getting, all they see is Nibelung Studio. And that's all they will see. So that's how you do that. It is important for a lot of us, I mean, it was important for me. I used to, back before things got real hot, I used to use my personal PayPal account and didn't really think much of it, and nobody cared. Then I switched to the business account, and now all anybody ever sees is Nibelung Studio. So that's what I would recommend you do. So now that we have all these bases covered, you'll have a sock puppet account on Fur Affinity. It'll be a believable sock puppet account. You're not going to put any stupid crap. You're not going to put any Third Reich stuff. You're not going to put any alt furry stuff. You're not going to put any of that stuff up on the front page of that. Make it believable. Be following 50 to 100 people. Have comments all over your front page. And have an interesting name at the very least. Then once you get to PayPal, once you commission the artist and the artist says, okay, sure, what do you want? When you're commissioning the artist, I would recommend, not including possibly offensive symbols that might tip them off. Although maybe I would recommend, unless you really want something to be historically accurate, like sometimes I have to include it on some pieces of art, which I'm not going to show here, but I'll tell them, look, I need this to be historically accurate. That's one way to kind of get around any objection, although sometimes they still object. Just tell them, I need for this to be historically accurate in order for it to be a good piece of art. So that's what I tell them. But I don't include things like that unless I absolutely have to. If I don't have to, I don't even broach the subject with the artist. I don't even include it if I don't have to, if I don't absolutely have to. And I recommend that you do the same. It's helped me get around to a lot of potential junk. So now that you've communicated with the artist, you've commissioned your art, it becomes kind of a transactional thing. They're not really thinking, oh, is this guy an alt furry or not? They're most likely thinking, I need to get this commission done as soon as I can, so I can move on to the next one. And okay, so sorry about that. I had to cut out. There's one other thing I want to go over before I end this thing, and that is how to conceal the name of your character if you need to. Most of you don't need to, but a number of months ago, when our contents of our server was leaked, a few people's characters were exposed as being part of alt furry, and some of you guys are still worried about, a good handful of you guys are still worried about not being able to commission any art for that character ever again. Here's what I would do. In that situation. I'll use my character Hans as an example. I would recommend concealing the name of the character and just give the artist an image of the character, but not the name. I'd say 70-80% of the time they're not going to frickin'. I mean, most of these artists are not down with the social justice crap. They might be liberal, they might even be social justice warriors, but most of the time they're just here to do art and have fun. Like, probably about 70% of the people here. So if they don't actually know your character's name, they're not going to be able to access any stupid blacklist that might be floating around. So I would recommend, in this case for Hans, I would when I give the artist my reference sheet, I would not share the name. So I crop out the Hans Hepner at the top, and I probably black out this little area here. This little area that has Hans's name, in case Hans was a big problem, which Hans isn't a problem, but let's say I have a character that's a problem. And I'll give him some other name, some other innocuous name. Jeb the Zebra. How about Jeb the Zebra? Obviously that wouldn't work in this case, but you see what I'm saying. Just give your character an innocuous name. Send the reference. Just have them do a picture of the character. As long as they don't actually name the character in the piece of art, you should be just fine. So that's what I would do. That should cover, for all of you, that should cover probably about 95% of any of the problems that you might have. So that's a pretty good ratio. So go out there and commission your awesome ideas and bring them to life. See you later. Bye.